Welcome to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio hour, podcast, and television talk show. I'm your host, Life Coach Renee Young, and sitting in the guest chair today is Kerri Hummingbird Sani. Kerri is the author of Love is Fierce, Healing the Mother Wound. Welcome, Kerri.
Thank you for having me here, Myrna. I'm excited.
Yes, I'm excited to have this conversation. Very important conversation. All right. So, as we get into our topic, I want to say that I personally have not had a mother wound. My mother, I'm the eldest of four children, and my mother and I have a very good relationship over the years. And she's actually my best friend. But I adopted three kids from the foster care system who were heavily wounded by their moms because of the abandonment issue. And I had a firsthand experience to seeing how that affected every aspect of their lives, whether, promiscuous with with men or boys, wanting to make friends and have people like you, a whole bunch of wounds. And then finally not being able to bond with me because they had attachment disorder. So, this is a very important conversation. And Kerri is going to be talking about healing the mother wound. So, anybody out there that's listening that's been wounded, we're going to give you some tips on how to, repair that. So, all right. So, let me give you a bit more information on Kerri. Kerri Hummingbird Sani is a soul guide, shamanic healer, award-winning author, and inspirational speaker. Kerri has had over 20 years of experience in helping women rewrite the story of their lives through inner transformation, connection to essence, remembrance of purpose, and realignment to authenticity and truth. All right, so one of the first questions I have here, Kerri, is that I understand that you work with clients who suffer from anxiety, depression, low self-worth, they struggle financially, and have difficulty in romantic relationships. What do you feel is the connection between wounded by our mothers and depression and self-worth?
Oh, that's such a great question. And this one is generational, really. So I want people to also understand that this wound is passed down generationally and also is a global human conversation. So even as your personal experience with your mother is from your vantage point very healed, right, which is a beautiful gift, there's like an ocean of not healed going on the planet. And so what a beautiful thing to have, like this life preserver called Myrna. It's like, I know how to love you. I know what, that's so beautiful. So
Right.
it's really pivotal because everything that happens in our early life and starting from the moment of conception. So starting from the moment of conception in the mother's womb,
Mm-hmm.
babies are being formed in the consciousness of the mother. It can't be any other way. You're inside the mother. You're being formed by the mother's beliefs about herself, beliefs about the world, ancestral traumas that are unhealed. All of it goes inside of our ancestral DNA in our very human bodies. And just like when you're inside of yourself right now, you know yourself, and so you know the kind of voice that you talk to yourself with,
Mm-hmm.
right? We all have that voice. And so
Right.
depending on how loving you've been trained to be is how lovingly you speak to yourself on the inside. So just imagine that voice that you speak to yourself with, it starts forming when you're being formed inside your mother's womb. So however your mother speaks to herself is
Mm-hmm.
how you start to learn to speak to yourself just from the moment you're being like created inside her womb, because you're in her consciousness, you're in her thoughts, you're in her being. So if she's not confident, or if she's had sexual traumas, or if she, um, you know, doesn't believe in herself, or what, any of those, that's going to influence your development. If she believes in herself, if she's strong, if she's vibrant, if she's like, inside of herself, she coaches herself in a really positive way, then you're getting that. You're getting that training inside as you're growing inside her body. And you're
Mhm.
also able to, they've proven now that babies are able to perceive outside the womb. So they're able to perceive not only what's going on inside the mother, but also like the outside environment. They can perceive things. They can hear voices. Vibration happens. They can feel things. They sense it. So the beginning of education in Earth School starts from the moment of conception. And, and then of course, we all know 0 to 7, that we're all like little sponges. And, because we don't know any better, we're
Yeah.
so innocent.
Yeah,
We
that's the part I know. That's the part I know. I didn't know much um about us, babies absorbing the consciousness of the mom inside the womb. I know that mothers can speak to the babies and they can hear their voices and all that. My little grandson came out and he heard his father's voice and he turned on the table before they cut his. He heard his father's voice and he turned around and looked at him. So I know that. But yeah, I understand that. Yeah, the first 7 years of your life, you're just downloading. You have no, consciousness of your own. But yeah. Mhm.
You have no filters either. So,
Mhm.
you're just subject to everything. So you're a big yes to everything. So it's like, yes, that's true. Oh, okay. Yes, that's true. Oh, that's true. And so you're just taking all of this as if it's truth because you
Mhm.
don't know any better. And then what happens at 7 is that you start this part of your development where you have your own consciousness. And in
Right.
that moment, you start to discern for yourself if that's true or not. You begin the process of discerning for yourself. But up until that moment, it's like all of this stuff is just embedded in your consciousness. And so you're operating from that place. So certainly if you experience a big loss, like an abandonment early in that 0 to 7, that's hugely impacting
Yeah.
anywhere along your development from 0 to 21. Anything that happens is going to be huge for you because all of
Mhm.
your various bodies are getting developed. So your physical body is getting developed first, then your emotional body is getting developed, then your mental body is getting developed, and then your spiritual body gets developed until 28. So all of these
Mhm.
bodies are being formed. And so
Mhm.
everything that happens in your life experience is like creating the context of your life, the inner context. Yeah.
Right. Mhm.
So it's potent. So now in this moment, anybody who is a mom is going, uh-oh,
It's a
uh-oh.
big responsibility. It's really it is taken serious. It should be taken seriously. It's a big responsibility because you know um, at first, before I got into this consciousness space and this self improvement space, I would hear them talk about the men or the women that are in prison. It all starts with their mom and or their childhood, I should say. And I always thought it was a big old blame game, but now I know it's true. It's true. So
It is
yes.
true. And
Mm-hmm.
it has been a blame game, right? So so as you start to approach this conversation, you can go into blame and shame and anger and resentment that these things happened to you. Like you can, if you haven't noticed, like the whole planet is really kind of affected by this victim mentality. So
Yeah.
we
Right.
all really struggle with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah.
victim, the perpetrator, the rescuer, like it's a big paradigm that we all are immersed in, and we do our best to get out of that. And most of us
Right.
that are trying hard, and we want to be sovereign. We want to be true to ourselves, authentic, genuine, without like blaming somebody else or manipulating somebody else. Yeah. So
Right.
now I would just want to reassure every mother because when I started learning this, I started going to self-judgment because I was like, oh my goodness, I know what I was doing when my baby was in me. Like I know what was happening, I
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And I
Mm-hmm.
could feel some judgment as I look about how his life is, like my oldest child, especially how his life rolled out. It's like, wow, he's really struggling with this, this, and this. And I was struggling
Right.
with that while he was in me. So it's like,
Right.
oh my goodness, because I had a lot of mental health challenges that I'd been working on but I was pregnant with him at 30. So I'd already been working on it for 15 years from the time I was 15 because I had early childhood trauma. So
Mm.
I was
Okay.
trying to heal
Right.
and I thought I had it all together. And then he came in my womb and I realized I didn't have it all together.
Mhm.
And now
Right.
it's too late because he's in there.
Yeah.
And this
It's
happens to a
very
lot of
small.
mothers.
Right.
Because
Right.
you get pregnant and then your whole physiology changes, and then any traumas from your childhood like go right up to the surface. You start having postpartum depression or other things, and you're like, why is this happening? I was really excited to have this baby. Why am I going through this?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
the big
Yeah.
purge, you know?
Okay. So you're
So
thinking that that's one of the reasons for postpartum depression, not going through, not dealing with some of the stuff that, from your past. Okay.
yeah, I
All
really
right.
think so. And I think that psychology makes an effort at helping people to cope with this kind of thing. And
Mhm.
I was invested in psychotherapy. So I was one of the rare people, because I'm 51 now. So this was decades ago where, not a lot of people went to psychotherapists, right? Like I was one of those rare few that would sit there every week and like try to work on myself.
Right,
you
right.
know and even still, even with all that work, I still at 30 like had this huge postpartum depression. I just had a breakdown, and I was remember standing in the shower one day and looking at the floor, and I saw, wide awake, a huge black hole in the middle of the floor. I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
this is not good. What's going on? Like
Wow.
I'm having some kind of spiritual collapse.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
went and
Yeah.
got on the happy pills, but that's another topic. I don't necessarily agree with those, but that's a whole nother topic. We
Yeah.
won't talk
Wow.
about
Your
that
mind is
today.
totally collapsing. Yes. Yes. That's right. Right. Right.
This broadcast isn't long enough to talk about that topic, but
Right.
I would just say that what I've learned in retrospect, because I could really beat myself up if I wanted to,
Hmm.
seeing how, because I've watched the things my son has struggled with, and I know that those are directly related to what I was going through when he was in my womb in the
Right.
first years of his life. So what I would say is forgive yourself, because it's by design.
Yes. And you also, mothers and parents should always forgive themselves, because parenting doesn't come with a manual. You do the best of your consciousness and your ability at the time, right? And you're going to do it based on your level, based on your parents, what they, what you saw. And yeah, so you shouldn't beat yourself up,
Yeah, and
right.
then we're here to learn and grow, right? So
Right,
the
right,
only way
right,
to do that is make mistakes and then go, oops, that was a
right,
mistake, and then do our
right.
best.
Right. So what you're saying is, in a nutshell, I'm using your son in as example, is that the mother wound, whether in uterus or the first 7 years of your life, that affects the things that we were just talking about here. Your self-worth and depression and anxiety and your romantic. I know definitely about the romantic relationships, because
Oh yeah.
if you don't love yourself, you can't really love others. And that's basically what it comes down to. If you're abandoned by your mom or hurt by your mom, or the mother wound, as we're talking about, it's very hard for you to love yourself. And when you don't love yourself, then you can't really be in romantic relationships. So I understand that. All right. So you said something really interesting just now about, you're being in the shower and seeing this dark hole, which is part of your subconscious and your mind. So um, how does your subconscious programming control our lives as it deals with this issue of the mother wound?
Yeah, I think that subconscious holds the keys to all of it, because if you think about like this concept of the iceberg submerged under the
Yeah.
water,
Yes.
the
Right.
part you
Yes.
see above the water is the conscious mind, but
Hmm.
all like there's so much more underneath the surface, right? Like there's a huge iceberg underneath there. And it's not to be afraid of that, but to be like, wow, there's so much to explore in my own consciousness to understand myself better so that I can show up even better. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but like for me, the days go by and there's millions of little moments in every single day. There's like millions of little decisions, little realizations, little feelings. And if I'm not conscious and present, I might step over a lot of that. But
Hmm.
if I slow down for a moment and actually felt some of the things that come through me during the day, then something unlocks, like some piece of something can shift, unlock, and I can just have greater happiness. And that's really the understanding about the subconscious and the way that it stores so much information for us, especially our early life. But even still, like every single day we go through, our subconscious is like recording everything and
Yeah.
marking those moments that we had
Right.
a reaction, but we didn't come back and like resolve it,
Yeah,
right?
I did a whole study on the subconscious mind and had several shows on it. And one of the things I noticed that I know is that the subconscious mind runs us 95% of the time. We're all running on subconscious programming, and maybe even as high as 99% of the time with the subconscious programming. So what you just mentioned there of, people being able to sit back and view it, that's very hard to do. And very few people are in that space.
And and that's part of my life's work, is to be here to show people stillness. Like, there's
Right.
great power in stillness, but in order to get there, you have to move from stress along the path of restraint. So you
Mm-hmm.
actually have to restrain yourself to be still so that the stress can dissipate by your witnessing of it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a hard thing to do, to feel it, to
Yes.
heal it. And we have a collective stress. We have a lot of collective patterns, as I was talking about before, that impact every single one of us. It's in, like, the environment. It's in our breath. It's just in the space. So you can feel it if you start to tune into it. Like, if you manage to get yourself elevated in frequency, and then you're feeling pretty good and happy, and then you take yourself and you bring your body into a shopping mall, all of a sudden you'll notice what I'm talking about with that stress bubble. It's like it's present in the space, and pretty soon you're feeling stressful, right? So we're
I've
inheriting
actually never
so
done
much.
that. I've never done that experiment, but I know about the collective consciousness because I follow Deepak Chopra and that's all he
Oh
talks about,
yeah.
collective consciousness. But that's a good example of you being able to. Well, I know you can feel the energy because I practice it when I'm in church because that's good energy, right?
Yeah,
And you
you
can
feel the
tap into it.
uplifted.
That's right, right. Like, you can tap into that energy, and I do that consciously when I'm in church. But I've actually never been happy or in an elevated frequency and then go into a space and try to feel the energy of that space. That's actually pretty good.
Yeah,
So
and you can
that's
start to
something you
notice
teach.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's running.
Yeah.
So what I teach is how to run experiments, because
Okay.
until you have the experience of it, you don't, you don't really know a lot until you experience it, right? Like, this is why
Okay.
teenagers always do a lot of really ridiculously stupid things,
Yeah,
because you
because they always
tell
want
them,
to experience everything. Right.
and they go do it anyway because they have to experience it. That you really can't tell them. That's one of the
Yes.
reasons why the setup is the way it is. So
Mhm.
so this is something I was told years ago, and this is for anybody out there who's like, just maybe feels like you just had a really rough time and you had a terrible upbringing or something like that, and you're like, your life's just ruined now because of it. If you're feeling that way, I totally understand, because I had moments of feeling that way in my life. And one of the messages I got from one of my first teachers was, and it was very provoking at the time, so I'm just warning you, you might get provoked by this, but it's like, you chose your parents. So you
Yeah, that's
chose
Wayne
it.
Dyer's teaching. I know that.
It's provoking.
Yes, 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 yes,
However, this is why I
yes.
gave a lot of warning about that. But
Right.
when I when he said that, my teacher said that to the whole room of like 70 adults, it was like
Right.
you could hear a pin drop. People were so pissed that he said that. It was like, what? I didn't choose to be molested. I didn't choose to be abandoned. I didn't choose to be,
Right.
all of this. But here's the thing I realized, if I even if it's not true, like, because we're human beings, what do we know? Even if it's not true, if I embrace that idea, what does it give me? It gives me the power to change things. If I embrace
Well,
it, it gives me the
well,
power
according
to
according
change.
to Wayne Dyer's teaching, he says we chose our parents because we needed that experience in order to do what we have to do in this earth. Is that where you're going?
Exactly. Because doesn't it feel more empowering to say,
Yeah, yeah,
I am such a capable soul that I
right,
chose this scenario
right.
to
Yeah,
learn and
yeah.
grow from it so I could come out in the
To
world and do
evolve. Yep.
amazing things? That's
Right,
way more
right, right.
empowering than, oh, poor me, and my
A
life
victim.
sucks, and
Right,
I'm going to live
right,
the whole
right,
rest of my life in a pity party and feel bad for myself and never get anywhere I want to go because my heart's calling me forth.
right.
Honestly, I believe everybody's
I like
heart is
that.
calling them forth to share their gifts.
Hmm.
So this is just a pathway that made it easy for me to embrace the things and go, okay, I must have needed
Wow.
that. And then I
Wow.
like to call it medicine. Like I must have needed that medicine. I must have
Wow.
needed that lesson. I must have needed that.
Well, I'm heading back again to my personal experience with, my foster children. Um, and they would not agree. They're not spiritually ready yet to agree with that scenario that they chose their parents. And wow, they would not agree with that at all. But anyway, it's once you have the personal experience with it, I can understand what you're saying. Somebody is saying, absolutely not. That's something that I reject totally. All right, so now I guess it's time in the show for you to talk about your mother wound. What can you share with us? Your
Yeah,
experiences with your mom. You alluded to it a couple of times, and I know you wrote a book. So, back us up on, your experience with your mom. Why you wrote the book, and what you want to share. Right.
yeah. Well, my lifetime inquiry has really been, how can I live in joy? How can I live with self-confidence and self-assurity and self-worth? And what's happened is that I had some things start to happen when I turned into a teenager that, I was like more flagrant than other people, like you're talking about. Like I was more promiscuous. I was more out there. I was more wild. I was like, why am I this way? Because other people aren't acting this way. Like, what is going on with me that I'm acting this way? And
Mm.
that began my journey in psychotherapy. And so my lifetime inquiry has been, why? Because the home I was in from the time I was 5 was very solid. Like my mom and my dad worked as a team. I didn't always like the things that they told me I had to do, but they were caring, they were loving, they were attentive. We had 3-way hugs. Like it was a supportive family environment. We went sailing on the weekends. Like we had a nice life. So it was like, why am I so screwed up? Was kind of my question. And what I started realizing was that, like, I had this feeling that something got broken inside of me from my early childhood, because I knew that there was trauma from 0 to 5, zero in my life.
Mm.
There was big trauma. My mom had married a man who was probably not suited to be a dad. He had his own trauma story from his own childhood of being abused by his mother and left outside of hotel rooms, and while she slept with men and things like that. Like, I mean, really, like, abandoned him in hotels for days, things like that. So he had all these traumas he was working through, and then she didn't think
Is
she could
that
get.
your dad?
That was my natural father,
Okay.
and
All right.
she didn't think
Okay.
she could get pregnant, and then here I am. Whoops. Not exactly the right environment. Plus, it's the summer
Right.
of
Right.
love, and all the stuff that was going on in the summer of love, and free love, and partners, and drugs, and all this
Right.
kind of stuff. And he liked all that. So,
Okay.
not a good spot. So she started noticing that there was a really good potential he was going to molest me. And so I want to give my mom huge props, because many mothers stay in a situation like that, afraid to leave. And my mother was a warrior of love. She did not stay. She's like, I'm not going to have my daughter grow up that way. And she left. So she found the next
Okay.
best pathway, and that was my first stepfather. Now,
Okay.
sometimes when you're a child, your parents are karma partners. So they have like big karma to work out. And my mom had big karma to work out with this person, and it was very violent. He was a violent drunk.
Your stepfather
My
or
first
your
stepfather, my first
first
stepfather.
stepfather?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So he was a
Okay.
violent drunk. So it was really, it was very traumatic. So by the time I'm 5, after like 4 years of that, we moved, and just by chance met the second stepfather, who I call my dad, who's the
Okay.
man my mom was with for 45 years till he passed away 3 years ago. My dad
Nice.
made it safe
Right.
for me. My dad was awesome. And until then, I was like this little ragamuffin. Like I had like dark circles under my eyes. My dad said when he first met me, he was like, "You just look terrified." And I'm 5 years old, you know?
Right.
So
Wow.
that's no childhood. So I know that 0 to 5, like, things were tough on me. And all of my early programming is that kind of stuff. So um that's why have been the way I have been, is because that stuff doesn't go away. It's not like your childhood's over, so just get on with it. No, it's like all of that embedded programming influences how you conduct relationships, how you see yourself, how you move in the world, how you speak to yourself on the inside, and how you speak to others on the outside. Even with the best, what I would consider the best arrangement with my mom and my dad, for
Well,
most of my
that's
life.
really my question I have here. Is that if you can't heal, if you're in a nurturing relationship from the age of 5, how is it possible for people to heal when they were in abusive relationships until they're 18 and they had to run away? So that's my question.
Yeah. And so the question is, every person's going to have to find their own path. That's the answer. And I wouldn't
Okay.
presume to say that my path is for everybody. So I want to say that you're in a unique thumbprint suit. We all have a unique thumbprint. We're all unique. Our pathway to the divine, to the awakening, is very unique. My path was psychotherapy for 20 years weekly, trying to fix myself in the broken hole inside.
Wow.
Didn't really, I
From the
mean, I got
first
a lot
5
of
years of your
insights.
life. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
20
Wow.
years. And
Wow.
then what happened was, I started going a different way because I decided, well, that didn't work. And I know I'm smart. I went to a really good college. I'm a smart person. So if it didn't work after 20 years, it's probably not going to work. So I need to go deeper. Like, it's not deep enough. It's not enough.
Mm.
So I started my spiritual path. For me, that was the opening. And why? Because it taps into beyond the mind. It taps into the body where a lot of trauma is stored, which many people know now. Trauma is stored in the body. And it taps into the emotional body. And it taps into this like big reservoir of feeling sense from pre-verbal. Like when you're a child and these things, scary things are happening, you don't have words to
Right.
talk. There's no words. You don't have language.
Explain. Right.
So
Right.
trying to access that and heal it from the mind, that's why it doesn't work. There's no words. So you have to go deeper. You have to go into the body, the somatic experience. You have to go into inner child healing, make friends with all these aspects of you and become their parent. So it's really about remothering yourself. And the
Mm.
remothering process takes some time because probably because of those early conditionings, you up until now might have not be the most loving parent for yourself, right? Because of all the ways you condition. So your inner voice might be really harsh and mean and judgmental. So it's a process of like softening that, becoming more gentle, loving, and kind to yourself. And then that creates a space that the inner children inside of you can start to trust you, that you're going to be kind and loving. And the longer you stay in that conversation and the more you heal with love and gentleness and kindness, what happens is that all of those little children start to sit in your lap inside of you and they start to trust you and you become a healed, secure attached person that now you can have completely different kinds of relationships. So you have to stay in the conversation of love and kindness and gentleness long enough for it to start to sink in and for these
Mm.
aspects to heal. So along
Okay.
that journey, all kinds of modalities might happen for you. Like you might see, I found mine in a shaman. I was like, somebody told me they got healed by a shaman, and I was like, sign me up because I'm at the bottom of the pit and I need to
Right.
heal. So I'll try anything. And that's what I did.
Well, I noticed that you're a shamanic healer. So yeah, so you became certified for that, right? Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I experienced it the first time. I had this tiny little moment of decision to allow the divine to heal me, just like that. Like, what if I suspended my disbelief for one moment and believe for just one moment that there's something here that loves me, that wants to heal me? And it was in that tiny little moment that my first
Wow.
healing happened. And it was like
Wow.
palpable. I could feel it.
Wow. Yeah. I've heard that. I've heard that. Yeah. So what are men's role in healing the mother wound? Because a lot of times, men sometimes come, you know, add to the damage that the mother started. And then the men, compound it. That's the word I'm looking for. So how can men help?
Well, men can help by healing the mother wound inside of them, right? Because all men were
Ah,
boys and
right,
they
right,
came out
right.
of a mother. And
A mother.
so
Right.
That's why the solution is the mother, because we all live in a mother to begin life. We all live in a mother.
Yeah.
So in order to
Very
heal, we
important
all have
role,
to go
mom.
back
Right.
to the
Right.
mother.
Hmm.
And I want to just throw in that this is a multidimensional conversation. So as much as it is about your relationship with your mother and the programming of love that you received from your mother, it's also a conversation about your trust and your connection with the earth, your trust and your connection with the divine. Like, it's a multidimensional conversation, because whatever lack of trust you have with your biological mother, that same lack of trust can show up in your connection with the divine, in your connection with the planet. The way if you're disregarding your body, you're probably also disregarding your impact on the earth. So there's like, these things are really deep, like they ripple out in all kinds of ways, and that's why it's a challenging thing to talk about this topic, because it
Right.
has so many tendrils everywhere. But
Okay.
yeah, men can heal
Wow.
the mother wound, and that's how they can serve.
Hmm. Okay. So they heal their wounds first, and then, like they said, put on your mask first before you before you can help anybody else, right? Okay.
Exactly.
All right. So I think I asked the question earlier, but so why did you write the book, Love is Fierce, Healing the Mother Wound? Can you tell us about your book and what led you? I know that is it kind of a autobiography of your experiences and your journey?
It has it uses my personal experience to illustrate various points that are very common across humanity. And so
Okay.
there's a lot of themes in the book that talk about why it is that we are in the situation we're in right now, where we have so much war and conflict and misunderstanding and divides between people, is because of this breakdown of the matriarchy, this breakdown of the feminine, and how a lot of the patterns we see are derived directly from breakdown of that primary relationship and the empowerment of the woman. So when the woman is not sure of her personal power, what happens is that everybody else suffers, because if the mother's not sure of her personal power, then she'll resort to shadow dynamics to have more power in the family, right? And that can result in really painful outcomes like family bullying or, um, you know, um, basically manipulations of all kinds. And many women operate with manipulative behavior because specifically of the way that women have been downtrodden and treated poorly across the planet for generations and generations and generations. So, but a woman in her power changes the whole conversation, because a woman who's securely attached within herself is a source, it's like a fountain, a mother especially, that's really connected in with her inner power, knows herself, loves herself, honors herself. That woman shows up in the world and with agape love,
Mm,
and agape love is what heals.
mm.
So why did I write the
Yeah,
book?
that's the love of Christ, right? Right. Yes.
Exactly, the agape
God's love,
love.
right?
The
Hmm.
agape love is what needs to heal the planet, and the people in bodies, the bodies that have the greatest potential to generate agape love are mothers' bodies, because I mean, we are touched by intense love for our
Yes.
children, even
Right.
if we're wounded and we don't know what to do with that. We're touched
Yes.
with intense agape love for our children. So
Right.
mothers' bodies, souls in mothers' bodies are the ones that can bring the healing on the planet at this time. So that's why the book was written. And
Mm,
multidimensionally, it was also written for my own healing as a mother and my healing with my mother, because like many women experience, my mother and I had a really hard time communicating with each other. There was always these dynamics in the way where we would misunderstand each other, and then there would be a big argument that would be very painful. And my dad was always the bridge to that. So for 45 years, 46 years, my dad was this bridge between the two of us. He helped us to keep the peace. And then suddenly he was gone. And for 3 years, I experienced just some of the most painful revealings in my family structure, things that I didn't realize were still present that were really, really painful. And I have two sons. So my love for my sons was that I wanted them to have a family that was loving, gentle, and kind, as I had been experiencing in all of my spiritual groups. I wanted to bring that love to my family so my sons would experience that and have love, and so that I could have love with my mother. So that's why I wrote the book. And also because
Okay.
I made this promise, if anybody out there has had somebody die that you really love, and then you're at their bedside as they're dying and you make some big, impossible promise, you'll understand me in this moment. When I was at my
Right.
dad's bedside and he was
Okay.
dying unexpectedly, and I whispered in his ear, "I promise you, Dad, I will love my mom unconditionally."
Nice.
I had to keep the promise. So I wrote the book. It took me a year and a half to go through the deep inner work to write the book and to reveal the patterns. But honestly, I'd been working on this project my whole life. I just didn't know I was being
Yeah.
prepared for this project.
Yeah. Yeah. You have been, like you said, you had 20 years in psychotherapy, of course. Right. Yeah. You've been prepared for it. So, all right. It sounds pretty good. Yeah. So you're healing your mother wound, healing the mother wound of your children and I mean, your sons, and also trying to help, others heal their mother wound, men and women, which is good, which is good. Yeah. So where can our listeners connect with you, get a copy of your book, on social media, your website, and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a website for the book, for the Healing the Mother Wound book, that actually, if you sign up on the list there, you will get 17 days of interviews on the return of mother wisdom, which I find really inspiring because I interviewed all these women and they have these beautiful things to say about where we're going with humanity on the earth. It's like, ooh, so exciting.
Wow.
We've been in a lot of human drama and we get to experience something new. So if you want to get those interviews, you can purchase the book on Amazon, and then you can take your confirmation number over to motherwoundbook.com. That's motherwoundbook.com. Enter that, and then you'll get on the list to get those interviews. And then if you just want to find out more about me, my website is kerrihummingbird.com, Kerri hummingbird.com, and everything's up there. All my gory details everywhere. It's all up there.
All right. So you don't have a podcast. You just did
I
interviews.
do.
You
I
do have
have
a podcast?
yeah, I have a podcast called Soul Nectar Show. I hope you're going to come on it. I have
Okay. All
spiritual
right.
conversation on my show, and I love it.
Okay. All right. What was the name of the podcast?
Soul Nectar Show.
Soul Nectar. Okay. All right. Awesome. Okay. All right. Well, great. This was a great conversation. Like I loved exploring the roles of mom and our important roles. Where bringing children into the world is not something that we should take lightly, because yeah, we are supposed to love them unconditionally. We're supposed to be instrumental in their growth. I remember one of the things that I had, because I have two biological children, and one of the things that I put, that I wanted to have, children that are contributing members to society. And I remember coaching my brother once, and that's exactly what he said. And I'm thinking, wow, where would we both come up with that statement? But yeah, but think about it. If you want to have children that are contributing members to society, they have to be mentally healthy. They have to be able to hold their own and to love and to, do all these different things. And it comes from, mothering and parenting. Um, and I was talking to my daughter earlier today, and I told her I had this interview, and she says, "What's it about?" And I told her, I says, "Healing the mother wound." She says, it's really interesting. Her comment was, "Is there a book about healing the father wounds?" And you know what my comment was? I don't know if it's right or not, but that was my response. My response is that the father is not as important to the wound, because a lot of fathers are not even around. You know what I mean? And there's no wound. But when your mother, the one that's supposed to love you, abandons you or hurts you, then it's a wound. What's your response to that? the father wound thing.
Yeah, I've had many people ask me that. And I think an
Really? Okay.
equally, yeah, I have. And I think an equally really good response to that question is to say, we are reparenting ourselves. Like, so there is the masculine aspect and there's the feminine aspect. So the mother aspect within you, you're remothering yourself. And then yes, in order to embrace fully the masculine energies, you've got to re-father yourself, right? So there's different gifts from the masculine and the feminine energies. And I know that at this time, like there's even many conscious people saying, let's stop using these two frameworks, because there's all these genders, there's like a million genders. And so we should just have to stop having
Yeah,
that conversation.
that's
But
true. That's
but
true.
there are these different energies. There's the receptive energy of the mother. There's the
Mhm.
groundedness of her. There's, if you just feel into a mother, like what your idea of like the perfect mother is like somebody who's got you no matter what. She's got roots, she's
Right,
got depth, she's
right,
mother
right, right.
tree. She's like, she's
Hmm.
there for you. And
Right,
she's, hopefully not all over your ass either. So she's just like allowing you to live your life and like present if you need her, right? So
right,
there's that. And then there's the father energy. So what are you getting from the father energy? It's like support, presence, like availability, maybe someone to help you navigate some of your mental paradigms. Like I want to, maybe this is emotional and maybe this is mental. So, you could explore within yourself, like, what does father energy mean to you and what does mother energy mean to you and what are your optimal versions of those? Because I've heard many times that along my path of being in spirituality, I wanted to be
hmm
prosperous, right? I mean, who doesn't want to be prosperous, right?
right.
But you need the father in order for prosperity. There's like this aspect in our current paradigm where that is an energetic that needs to be healed for your prosperity to fully blossom. Yeah.
Okay.
So you got to
Right.
embrace that at some level and bring it in, even if you're
But
just giving it to
right,
yourself,
right.
you know?
But the question was, can we be wounded if we don't have a father figure in our lives?
Yeah, of course,
To
because
the
we're not
to the
having.
extent of the mother, though. Maybe a little bit of wounded, but not where it would cause you to have all these problems in
I think
relationships.
the
I don't.
mother wound is really, it's whoever your primary parent was. Let's say you don't have a mother. Let's say she died in childbirth or something like that. And you're only, then your father is like becoming your mother in a way because he had
Mother
to
and
take that
father,
role
right?
on.
Okay.
There's
Okay.
situations like that too. So your primary parent, but I do believe that there is something very, very different about the mother because also the genetic material is like they carry forth our energy in their bodies.
Right.
And we're always connected with them because a piece of them stays in our bodies,
Right.
in our womb.
Right. Right.
So, in that
Right.
umbilical cord, even though it's
I was
cut,
just about to say that the
it's
umbilical
never
cord,
actually
right?
cut. It's
Right. Right.
cut and then try to
Hmm.
cut it again. Like I'm giving my son all kinds of freedom. He's 21. And so I've intentionally cut that cord several times and then it keeps coming back. So I'm like, okay,
Right. Right. Right.
well, I'm not
Right.
going to fight that, right? Like I'm going to let it be there because it
Hmm.
actually makes you feel safe as an emerging adult to know that your mom is there and to be able to touch her. You don't really want her in your space, but you just want to know she's there in case you do want her in your space.
Right.
Like
Right.
so there's a tricky line
It's
that we
yeah, I
walk.
think it's a very important connection. It's very so yeah, so thank you for answering that. Okay. All right. So as we wrap up, right. Our regular listeners know that, you can get a transcript of my conversation with Kerri on the show page, which is blog.myhelps.us. I would also have links to Kerri's websites, both of them that she mentioned, and also have a picture of her book on the website, as well as our transcript. Would love for you guys to subscribe. You can now the Transform Your Mind radio podcast and television show. We're on all 11 podcast players, including iTunes. The radio show airs every Wednesday at 5 p.m. at WDJY 99.1 FM in Atlanta. And now the television talk show airs on the Preach the Word Worldwide Television Network every Sundays at 6 p.m. So there's lots of places to watch, and please subscribe and definitely continue to support the show because I am bringing you quality guests like Kerri every week so that I can help you to transform your mind to transform your life. So, Kerri, thanks again for this illuminating conversation. I learned a few things from you about, healing and the mother's role in the health of her child. Um, and some of the deeper, spiritual connections of the mother, because you know if you can have a quality in life from 5 onward and still be damaged by what happened in the first 5 years of your life, we know how important, the mother relationship and her childhood is. So, any last words before we wrap up?
Yeah, I want to encourage every mother out there to just dose yourself in a big old pile of grace and just breathe it in, because you signed up to be this teacher. It's not an easy job. It's the hardest job there is, and you're doing your best. So allow, accept, embrace yourself. Be gentle, be kind, be unfolding with love. And as in that grace, there's grace for your children, because as you heal your DNA, they also receive that healing 7 generations forward and back. So you are the way of more love. Bring that agape love forward. Do it now. We need it. We need it on the planet.
Wow, I'm going to say amen to that because that's preaching. That was good. I like that. Yeah, 7 generations. Yeah, wow. That's important,
Oh
So,
yeah.
yes. Well, all right, Kerri. Thank you very much. Thank you guys all for tuning in to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio, podcast, and television show. So, until next time, blessings.